Help Us on the Way for Orchestra is my first orchestral work. It's a symphony. I'm trying to get it performed this June 2024, or at the very least in this lifetime. I have to say thank you so much to everyone who has supporting this effort. Many of you have discovered Help Us on the Way for Orchestra through the Instagram. To be honest, 2 weeks ago, I barely knew how to use Instagram. I still feel like I don't really know how to use it, but I'm learning, and I'm just so overwhelmed by all the wonderful feedback and interest that people are showing. So thank you very much. I want to talk to you today about my strategy for Help Us on the Way. I think it would be very insightful for people who are invested in it to see the thinking process. So I'll be very, very open with you. And if you do stay to the very end, I will tell you the ultimate goal of Help Us on the Way. It is truly a bold, bold vision, but I hesitate to say it too early because I don't want to scare people by how intense I believe in this project. And of course, I'll talk about why I stopped applying to these competitions. So I first want to mention that Help Us on the Way has two different versions, okay? The original version was composed in 2015, 2016, something like that, and I submitted to a major orchestral competition here in America, and it did not win the competition. That happens. It's to be expected. This doesn't mean anything. However, I then expanded it into a symphony because I was living at home. I was getting, just getting just out of grad school, trying to get teaching work. And so I wanted to work on something big. I'd always had a dream of composing for orchestra. So it was expanded into a symphony. And then I submitted some of the other movements to certain competitions and still didn't get anywhere. Okay. Then I moved to Paris, France. I had done a summer program a couple years prior in which I fell in love with the teaching, how they teach music in France. And I met a master teacher in that program who studied with Nadia Boulanger. So I moved back to Paris to study directly with him. So I studied harmony with him, which was probably the principal way I was able to really realize the current version of Help Us on the Way. Okay, it was truly harmony. If you don't know anything about music, it's totally fine. I'm assuming you love music, but don't worry. Though I do have a harmony for the general public series on my other channel, the official channel. But I studied harmony, I studied counterpoint, I studied fugue, and I studied orchestration. But it was really the harmony that prepared me. And what I can tell you now is that the sound of Help Us on the Way is excellent out of the box. Okay, out of the box, Help Us on the Way is excellent. Okay, and of course, I revised Help Us on the Way while I was in France, and then kind of completed it. The ultimate finish was done in New Jersey. But I revised it in Paris, France, which is why I call that version the Paris version. And then, of course, the original version was what, I did in America. But again, that training that I spent 5 years in Paris, France to get more training. So I just say that so you see like the time and work and labor that has gone into Help Us on the Way. I want to give you the announcement at the very end for those who stick around about the ultimate vision. I think it is very bold. We're going to talk very shortly about why I do not believe in applying to competitions. Okay, it's not because I'm bitter. But I want to quickly talk to you about Ravel and Debussy. So these are considered two great French composers. And some of you probably don't know unless you've heard their music live, because the recording is always polished, is that Ravel's music just sounds good right away. Like a youth orchestra could sight read it, and even if there's mistakes, maybe not the pitches, but like it's just not fully together, it's a little sloppy, it will still sound good. Okay, because he definitely was an excellent orchestrator. Now, Debussy, on the other hand, was very, very good, an excellent orchestrator in a certain sense, but it's very refined. And if you don't have the proper balance, like if the conductor you don't have the oboes doing the exact type of piano, the trumpet with the mute, if you don't have everything like totally aligned, like a conductor that really knows it, it won't sound good. It'll sound, you might be bored. It just sounds kind of dull and flat. Like you need the nuance we say in French. So I just say that because there are certain pieces that they take time, you really need a lot of work. You need a lot of work. But with Help Us on the Way, for sure, we need to be rehearsals, right? It needs to be together, it needs to be in tune. But I think right away you will hear that the orchestration is excellent. And for those who don't know what orchestration is, just think of it. We have ideas on piano for us composers, and then we have to translate them for orchestra. It's all about the balance, the sound of the violins, the harmony, all of it. So beautiful. Now I want to talk to you about the great danger. And don't worry, we will get to why I do think it's wise to apply to competitions, and this is building to it. Don't you worry. I think the great danger is that I never hear my work performed live. And if you've ever seen, if you know the story of Schubert, okay, great for chamber. I mean, it's the sublime, top of the top, the top of the top. It's the top of the top. However, his symphonies don't measure up. I've tried listening to his symphonies multiple times, and at first I found them fresh and insightful, like, oh, cool, like, another, an early version of Beethoven, or, there's something exciting at first because it's different, but they just don't hold my attention. And I think if you look at how orchestras program, it's very clear that it's just hard for those symphonies to really make a permanent, they get performed, but it's just not his best work. And I think part of the reason is he never had a performance in his lifetime. I believe he had like some readings or something in a private, setting, but he didn't really have that feedback which Beethoven had, and which I also had in my undergrad and grad school, especially undergrad as well as high school. I went to Walnut Hill, which is a very premier performing arts school, and I learned through hearing performances of my work. And often I was dissatisfied, but I had to conduct, I had to organize rehearsals, but that's how I learned, is to hear the work, hear it live, like a real experience. Okay, so if I do not get this with Help Us on the Way, it's also going to cause a lot of hurdles elsewhere, because for those who follow me on my official channel, you'll know I have several operas I'm working on. I have Salambo, it's an opera ballet. I have an opera oratorio called Phèdre. I have an oratorio called Paradise Lost that I'm composing. But if I don't hear the orchestra, if I don't hear my ideas, it's going to be hard to get interest from these larger organizations. Like, why would a ballet company be interested in me or want to take a chance on my opera ballet Salambo if I can't present at least an excerpt of an orchestral work, right? So I'm going to be very limited in my growth as a composer very, very soon, already, if I do not have something, okay? So I think as a composer, it is quite important that I get a performance. Now, I want to show you something magical. I'm going to play an excerpt from the trance section of Help Us on the Way, Movement 2. What I love in the harmony, and again, for those who don't really know what harmony is, just think of it making the music more three-dimensional. But listen to this. We have the first harmony. Do you hear how it becomes like cloudier and more and muddier? Okay. And that is the land of Help Us on the Way. It's this kind of, the harmony, it's not like this in your face. It can be in your face, but that is part of the beauty of Help Us on the Way. And this is the revised version, what I did in Paris and finished in Jersey. So we'll call this the Paris version versus the original version that got rejected and I had to abandon. We'll call that, the original version, okay? But this is the Paris version. Listen to the tension. Like, do you hear that subtle change? Now I want to play another version, which I also started in Paris, but also did a little bit in Amsterdam. So I call this the Amsterdam version, okay? Sorry, it's quite sloppy. I haven't really had time to work on that, but I hope you were able to hear a fundamental difference. So in the original the Paris version of Help Is on the Way, you feel that kind of tension, and it's really lovely. But then after living and working in Paris, my ear even expanded, so a future version of Help Is on the Way would go like this. So it's like that alteration feels, it's so soothing. Okay, and I just show that to show you that this is going to go other places. Okay, but I got to hear the performance. I don't. I'm not going to. So that the newer version, we'll call it the Amsterdam version. I can't work on that because I got to hear the first version. I got to hear the Paris version. I got to hear it. I got to hear it live. Okay, we got to hear it live. I'd like to talk very briefly about the score. And again, for those of you who stick around to the very end, I will be telling you the ultimate goal of Help Us on the Way, the ultimate vision. Okay, so the score is available on my website. It is on the purchase page for those who want to purchase it. I understand probably people don't want to because they haven't heard a live performance. That is totally understandable. But if you find it interesting, I will be showing more examples of the score, talking more about it. And at some point, if you're curious and you would like to buy it, you can either buy the entire full score or individual movements. And I believe I have discounted rates in place until end of June 2024, but just double check the website. And I was also considering adding a sample score because maybe people want to peruse through the score. I don't know how to do that. I'll have to do some research, but if that would be of interest to you, if you would like to be able to go to the website and just see the score, I'm a bit concerned about copyright and someone stealing the work, so I'd have to research how that would be made available. But I think it could be useful, especially for promoting Help Us on the Way. So do let me know in the comments if that's something that you would like to see, like a sample perusal score. I don't know. All right, so let me give you the first reason that I'm against applying to competitions. The very simple reason, I think if Beethoven was alive right now, or there was a new Beethoven, the Beethoven of our times, I don't think he or she would be recognized. I just don't think it would happen. I don't think we have the support structures in place that Beethoven had in Vienna or what was in place in Paris. I don't think we have the society that even appreciates enough that it would lead to enough connoisseurs or people or systems and funding mechanisms that could recognize extreme great talent. Perhaps in piano and violin, that is still the case, but I do not think it's the case in composition world. So when I submit to a competition, I just don't know if they could recognize the next Beethoven. I just have a suspicion. It's just a suspicion. And I have to say, applying to these competitions is a lot of work. You might have to get a lot of recommendation. There's a burden on someone else's time. It's, it can take 2 hours of work, but that's a lot of time, especially when you're working, when you're composing new stuff, and where that time can be used more wisely. And if you've been following the Instagram, I think you're seeing now that some of the hunches I had are panning out. Like, we're seeing some progress. Not enough, but we're seeing progress. So I want to stick with that for now. I have a second, more fundamental reason for not wanting to do competitions. Okay, and just a reminder, if you stick around to the very end, I will tell you my ultimate goal of Help Us on the Way. I think it is extraordinary, but I prefer to save it to the end because I know people get kind of alienated when you have big goals, like, oh my God, he's crazy. But I do think it is extraordinary, the vision. So I think the second reason, so Help Us on the Way, I finished on Christmas, the Paris version. I finished here in America, the second on Christmas. It took me a full year, and then I finally finished it last Christmas, or the day after Christmas. And then I submitted to several competitions this year. And what I noticed is I had been very like excited to do this whole project of creating an Instagram or contacting orchestras, all the stuff you see me doing now on the Instagram, Help Is On The Way. I've been tentatively starting to do, and then I noticed I stopped doing it. And then I think I went a whole month, maybe it was March, just not talking about Help Is On The Way, not working on it, not working on the parts. Okay, I gotta get back on the parts. And I just felt kind of like, not depressed, but kind of like glum. And then when I was rejected by that major orchestra, I won't mention that competition, that sparked the creation of ultimately this channel, of course, this video, but also of the Instagram, Help Us On The Way. Okay, do you see what I'm getting at? So I think what was happening is I was becoming complacent because I had this kind of hope, right? Like, oh, well, maybe I'll get it. Because to be real, it's a lot of work to email people, to make phone calls, which is what I'm doing. It can be demoralizing at times. So it's nice when you have something there in place that kind of makes you feel good. But unfortunately, I think hope is the enemy of progress. I know that can sound controversial, but I think in this case, seeing how much I have gotten done in 2 weeks, once I realized, okay, no one's going to be my savior, no one's going to perform Help Us On The Way, I have to like just contact people and make my own opportunities, okay, and build support with the public. I think that is a sign that it is dangerous to apply to competitions because there is a danger that you become complacent. Now, not everyone becomes complacent, but at this point, given all the momentum I'm receiving from you and everyone else, I think I want to go further down this rabbit hole and see where it takes me than to go the conventional route of waiting for a competition to recognize the greatness that is already here. Before I get to the major announcement, I just want to encourage everyone to pursue their dreams. Okay, now I put some caveats there because, you know, that can get you in a lot of trouble, right? That can get you a lot of trouble, get you a lot of debt. But I think if you really, really love something you're doing, you will find the energy for it. So I cannot advise you on these things. All I can say from personal experience with Help Us On The Way, I have spent it's a whole 7-year process, okay, of composing in America, going to France, getting trained, revising, come back to America. So I'm invested. It's what I care about most. And I have the energy. Like, I don't have to force the energy for Help Us On The Way. It just comes very naturally. And I can go from now till forever. Okay. So if you do have a passion or something you love, a piece or whatever, it's a lot of work. But if the love is there, I think the energy isn't that hard to find. It's still work. Okay. So I hope that you can find a way to do your passion. But I understand it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Okay. So I wish you lots of success. All right. Now I want to end with my announcement. If you follow me on my official channel on YouTube, I already announced it at the end of I think it's a subscriber special from early April or something, I forget. But my ultimate vision for Help Us On The Way is to have an orchestra, okay? I want to have the orchestra of Barney J Music. I want to have my own orchestra here in Jersey. It's an orchestra that would be a for-profit orchestra, meaning it is commercial orchestra, not in the sense that it plays commercial music. I want an orchestra that's going to play my music, can play Beethoven, Bach, and other composers that I believe in. I think it's no more composers. But it would be commercial in the sense that we have built a demand for classical music, that people actually want to spend their money on it. And gone is the tyranny of waiting for donors, applying to donors, applying for grants, having to keep my mouth shut all the time, not being able to live my life, scared to offend some donor here. It's a tyranny. It's a tyranny, okay? And I do think that there is a path forward, and I think I am building the support, and I hope everyone does. If they want to do it, they realize their own visions. So, for example, imagine if we have so many Instagram followers so quickly. I'm so shocked. But imagine if we got to 10,000. Imagine if we got to 1 million. Then I can make the case to an orchestra company, or I could be like, listen, we have there is public support. And then I could show, okay, we have a concert for Help Us On The Way. Whoa, tickets sold out. Tickets sold out. Tickets sold out. Okay, so you see what I'm saying? I think there is a path to be commercially viable in the 21st century in the orchestra if we're willing to undo the mental chains that have been in place. Now, I understand it's very bold, it's very daring. Most people I tell in the classical music world think the vision is absolutely crazy. They think, Barney, you need to go back to business as usual. But I have to say that what I'm seeing is the contrary. I think taking it to the people like I'm doing through the Instagram, I'm seeing a lot more change much quicker than waiting around, applying, waiting for someone else to do the work for me. So one other thing to mention about the orchestra is, if you follow me on my other channel, the official channel, I have a series called Harmony for the General Public, in which I talk about harmony, but in a very nonchalant, direct way for anyone to understand. And imagine if I had an orchestra and I could invite the kids, they have an after-school program, right? You're enrolled in this program. You get to hear harmony. I get to stop at certain chords, right? Imagine if we say, look at this chord and Help Us on the Way. And we could pause, right? Or we go to another part of Help Us on the Way. Or another work. You could take Beethoven. We could pause, do it in slow time so people could experience. So there's all kinds of wonderful things that could also be monetized. And we could show people that I think there is a commercial path forward in the arts where we're doing beautiful music, not just something irrelevant, beautiful music that has depth, that also puts real money in the pockets of musicians. So again, I understand the vision is considered very radical and crazy by some people, but I'm just sharing it so you know what is underneath everything, where things will be moving to. I hope you found this insightful, and let me know if you would be interested in seeing a sample score, perusal score of Help Us on the Way on the website. Thank you for supporting Help Us on the Way for Orchestra. Have a wonderful day.